Thank you, Dr. Hillreth. It's good to be here with the deans and, in fact, the entire stage party. Let me first offer my sincere congratulations to the graduates today. You have obviously worked hard and you've earned these degrees. And a big congratulations to the parents, to the faculty, to the family members, and of course to the faculty. You have done obviously an amazing job. So about 2 years ago, I was asked to represent my company at an award ceremony for a British Dental Association. And it was at a, thank you. I will get these things right over time. So it took the form of a celebration. It was in December, and there was a fair amount of alcohol offered. And I was to receive the award and present serious remarks on healthcare policy in the UK at about 10 o'clock that evening. The party began at 6. So I got up, made my remarks, started my remarks, and began with a joke. No one laughed. Then I started reading my serious remarks, and everyone laughed. I said, thank you, and I sat down. I travel with an associate, a millennial, and I said to her, Mallory, what did you think of my remarks? She said, the best you've ever given. I said, why? She said, there were 35 seconds. So, Dr. Hillreth, I'm not going to be 35 seconds, but I'll try to get through some thoughts very quickly. So you may wonder, why is he the speaker here today? I'm a CEO and a CPA. I'm not a doctor nor a dentist, medical doctor nor a dentist. I was born in South Africa, definitely not in the American South. My wife and I live in New York City and not in Nashville. But what I'd like to do with you is share some of my thoughts as I've gone through my long journey, my life's journey, born in South Africa, spent a little time in the UK, and really spending the bulk of our lives here in the United States. My wife, Marion, is a graduate medical doctor from the University of Witwatersrand and studied public health in the United States. We've been here for 4 decades. We arrived in the United States in 1976 in New York City, which to me is the melting pot of the world. I joined an accounting firm, and after 4 years with the firm, was asked to become the first chief financial officer for Henry Schein. So here are some thoughts. I have 10 little quick ones to go through with you. My first thought is, and particularly to the graduates, think big. Whatever your dreams are, think big. And remember the words that the late Senator Robert Kennedy made so famous. Some men, and of course women, see things the way they are and say why. I see things that never were and say why not. That phrase has served me well throughout my life. And so I think the most important question you can ask yourself on a regular basis is why not? And yes, this great country, which as far as I'm concerned is the greatest country in the world, we have our challenges, and they are deep. And there are many, and there have been for the 45 years we've been here and for the years before. But I've always believed that no dream is too big for Americans. My second lesson is the concept of failure. Yes, indeed, failure is an option. Without trying things that are new, you will never learn. So in my experience, life owes us nothing. We should try new things and be adventurous. And In the words of the most famous South African, President Nelson Mandela, courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over fear. And Eleanor Roosevelt, one of the greatest Americans, once said, "You must do things that you think you cannot do, and try to do one thing every day that scares you a bit." I've tried to live my life that way, to try adventurous things. And I heard this little quote a few weeks ago, which I really think sets it out for us all. Each of us was at one time a clay pot that has been made stronger and more useful and more beautiful by undergoing the heat of the kiln. My third lesson to you is it's all about people. Anything you want to achieve in life is going to result only, and it's going to have positive results only because of others. My parents had a small department store, Eric Stores, in South African neighborhood of South End in a seaport of Port Elizabeth in South Africa. My late mother taught me virtually every day. She was a physically petite woman with a towering personality, and she was the fabric of the store. She was the one that always reminded us it's all about people. The South End community traced its roots well over 100 years to people from all over the former British Empire. My parents arrived in this community, an extremely diverse community, a wonderful, sparkling community, as refugees from Nazi Germany in 1936. And they were welcomed with open arms into this community. No one really cared about their background, and they were welcomed. A tragedy occurred in this community in the late 60s. The apartheid government segregated the community and moved people to different parts of the city, breaking up a neighborhood where this fabric of harmony was destroyed. Neighbors were forced into different communities, and my parents lost their friendship of neighborhood. What I learned in that community is the importance of diversity. Diversity in every form. Look out for every opportunity where you can spend time with people from different communities, different walks of life. The richness of diversity is something you will find valuable. My fourth lesson is showing up. I was 6 years old. I was a sick young boy. And a friend of my father's gave me the first transistor radio to walk around my father's bowling club. I'm not sure if the students today in this audience know what a transistor radio is, but there are some people that know what it is. I walked around with this transistor radio at 6, and a gentleman asked me where he could buy one. So I went to my father's friend who gave me this radio and asked him where this transistor radio could be bought. And he said, "Well, if you sell the transistor radio, I will pay you a commission." Well, I sold the transistor radio at 6, got a commission check, had no idea what it was, and gave it to my parents, who deposited it in the bank. My lesson to you is, if you show up, you stand a chance. Sometimes you just say, that last meeting, I don't want to go to it. Why? Why should the deans ask me to come to something? Why should I go? I'm exhausted. Show up. You never know what opportunities will be there for you. My next lesson is the importance of family and friends. I had asthma as a young kid, and this was the time before inhalers. I think the dean of the medical school probably doesn't know that, but I'm a little older than you. There were no inhalers when I was young. And so I was sent to a semi-arid area to spend a few years as I was dealing with my asthma. And there I met farm workers that literally were living in abject poverty and a form of serfdom under the South African apartheid regime. And there I learned that people that have the greatest challenges in life can in fact come over those challenges, deal with those challenges through family and friendship. And it was remarkable for a 7-, 8-year-old kid to see that. That lesson has lived with me for the rest of my life. Now, my next lesson, it's about being persuasive. And last night at a dinner, somebody mentioned, if you have a thought and you really, really believe in it, do not be shy. Get out there and do it. And you know, what made all the difference in my life was, I was about 9 years old on this farm, and I really, really, really wanted to drive a tractor. So I persuaded these people that worked on the farm to give this young person an opportunity to drive a tractor and to ride a horse. And I was so persuasive that they let me do it. The bottom line is, I learned that if you have something that you want to do it. I got to drive the tractor, got to ride the horse, but never told my parents. Now, the next lesson. If you want to get something done as a leader, and obviously as a healthcare professional with a doctorate degree, you're ready for the podium of leadership. You've got to figure out how you're going to lead. And my thought is a concept that somebody laid out in front of me about 45 years ago. And that is that when you want to lead, think of how a campus operates, a summer camp operates, and see how those counselors get everyone engaged on the field. You know, treat everybody how you want to be treated, engage everybody in the mission. There's a role for everyone, and everyone can make a difference. As leaders, we just need to get people onto the playing field, and you know what? Things happen. So my next thought is seek out mentors. There are unbelievable numbers of good people in the world. Look for them. Good people will help you. I had a terrible handwriting, I still do, as my wife will tell you. And my high school geography teacher in my last year of high school just felt I could not graduate with that handwriting. So in my last year of high school, he would sit with me in the afternoon and teach me how to write. His name was Dr. Earl. I then went on to college, and in my senior year at college, thank you, Dr. Earl, my law professor knew that I was quite capable of doing well in the law exam, but could not read my final test. What he did for me is he asked me to come into his office and transcribe it. I did quite well. The bottom line is, there are tons of good people in the world. There's a price to pay. We can learn from good people, but I'm going to come up with the price to pay a little later. So I met Jay Shine, Henry's son. Henry believed in young people. He gave me a shot in life. My first assignment was to go as a 30-year-old chief financial officer and raise $3 million. This was 35 years ago, so add a couple of zeros to that. The biggest loan I'd ever been involved with was a $3,000 automobile loan. But Jay had total confidence in me to get it done and mentored me through the process. Another mentor of mine was Dr. Edward B. Schulz from the Wharton Business School. He founded the very first entrepreneurial center in the world and came up with the concept of intrapreneurship, which is entrepreneurship in a large business. What he mentored me on was the notion that difficult decisions are always ambiguous. Figure out the pros and the cons and just make a decision. I was mentored through that very carefully by Dr. Schulz. The people around you can be great mentors. I work with a great group of people. Our CFO, extremely conservative, has never seen a deal ever that he's liked. Our chief strategic officer, on the other hand, has never seen a deal he doesn't like. So surround yourself with people whether they're colleagues, whether they are academic professors, whether they're your boss, or people that actually work with you or work for you, and seek their mentorship. And I will now give you a key lesson that has helped me in this mentorship world. I look to people younger than me to mentor me, and I work with millennials daily. We don't see eye to eye because we grew up in a different world. But I'm here to tell you today that in my view, the millennial generation are ready to take on the challenges of this world, which sadly are greater than the challenges our generation, the baby boomers, inherited. We have left you with a real muddle. And a struggle, by the way. I would say to anybody of my age or even younger, surround yourself with younger people. They will help you and they will be the best mentors. Now, the price for mentorship, receiving it, is to mentor and to be a mentor. And so that leads me to my next lesson. The lesson of doing good by doing well. You got that? Doing good by doing well. So, we each have an important contribution to make to society. And I believe that if you go out into the world, regardless of your goal, whether you want to go into private practice, you want to go into academia, you want to go into academics, into academic science, there's an opportunity to do well for the world by doing good. And so I would ask that you focus on driving positive outcomes in the world. And there are a couple of areas, there are four I'd like to cover with you. First, as healthcare professionals, the biggest challenge that is faced from a healthcare point of view in the world today is access to care. There are millions of people, billions of people in the world that just not have access to care. I would suggest to you that if you do what you can to provide access to care to others, you and yourself and the people around you will benefit from that. Whether you participate on the medical side, on the dental side with the American Dental Association's Give Kids a Smile program, or the Henry Schein Healthy Communities, Healthy Lifestyles program. Go out and figure out how best to provide access to care, and in particular, I would ask the medical students here to recognize the importance of oral care in the continuum of care, and the dental students to work with the medical students and, of course, the practitioners to ensure that the medical world understands that good oral care results in good health care. I would then ask you to focus on collaborative care. The two sides of healthcare and the multiple dental and medical, the multiple other areas of healthcare all working together. So in this regard, there is a direct correlation between good oral care and good health care. Integrated models require trained physicians, trained dentists to be working together with the other professions. My third is show compassion. I'm afraid that technology, which is resulting in great outcomes in healthcare, sometimes leaves an empty spot. I went through back surgery about 3 months ago. I was scared. Many people make you scared knowing that you're going into back surgery. I wish you luck one too many times. It's probably not welcomed. But you know what happened to me? As I was about to go into the operating room, this nurse held my hand and said, "Stan, everything will be fine. The holding of my hand made all the difference. And as you walk out of your operating room, when you conduct a procedure, should you be a surgeon, or when you diagnose somebody and you talk to them, and the family members are sitting nearby, and this is the challenge, not easy for all of us to handle. Don't go right to your iPhone. Look your patients and look the family in the eyes and say, I'm going to do everything to help you. And now, my fourth request or suggestion is to understand that somewhere around the year 2045, the majority of Americans in this great country will trace our roots to the developing world. Diversity will become even more of the American equation. And I will say to you that because of some of the structural issues in healthcare, the healthcare profession does not look like, feel like the American population. So what we need to do, all of us, is work together to find ways to advance cultural competency in healthcare so that all Americans can feel comfortable, regardless of their ancestry, regardless of their background, accessing a healthcare professional. And so those were my 9 key thoughts, lessons I've picked up, thoughts I've picked up through my journey. But there is a 10th. And a 10th is, while you're dealing with all these challenges, have fun. And remember your family too. Have time to spend with your family. Always carve that out while you're having fun. So I would submit to you, life goes very fast. So have those moments of fun and those moments for family. So my 10 life lessons are: think big, learn from failure. It's all about people. Showing up is important. Importance of family and friends. Be persuasive. Engage everyone in the mission, like the school counselor, the summer camp counselor. Seek out caring mentors and be a mentor to others. Doing well can come from doing good. It really works. And have fun. So, as you go through your healthcare professional careers, remember, access to care is critical. Everybody has a right. Remember, it doesn't matter where we're born, in what country, where we are in the world. Everyone has a right to care. And in that regard, a little commercial for the dean of the dental school. Oral care is really important. It's not the head plopped on the body, it's part of the body. And please, collaborative care, compassion in practicing your profession, and yes, focusing on cultural competency so that everyone can feel comfortable receiving health care, no matter what your background is or your stature or status in life. And so I put a lot of items on the agenda there for you. But when you're sitting in that moment and saying, I'm overwhelmed by priorities, just remember what President Mandela was so fond of saying. It's always impossible until it's done. I wish you all the best in your journey as healthcare professionals and healers. Thank you. Thank you.